So, in about 72 hours, the Chicago Bears 2024 season will officially be over, and the head coaching search will begin in full tilt. But the New York Jets have already interviewed Mike Brable and Ron Rivera. So, my question, and probably your question, what are the Chicago Bears waiting for? Let's talk about it. Welcome back to Bears Yard. This your boy Vipe, and I'm wondering, just like you might be wondering, what are the Chicago Bears waiting for? Why have we not interviewed any head coaching candidates yet? Well, it turns out there are some rules that the Bears will have to follow as they begin their head coaching search here in the next week or so. But the Chicago Sun-Times did an amazing article today laying out the rules that the NFL has put forth for interviewing coaches in certain situations. So, I just want to go over and read some of the article with you, and then we will discuss as this video goes along. So, let's talk about requesting interviews and different things like that. The Bears are allowed to interview in-house candidates or coaches not employed by NFL teams before the end of the regular season Sunday and after it. Starting on Monday, they can begin requesting interviews with coaches affiliated with other NFL teams. So, the Ben Johnsons, the Liam Cohens, the Joe Brady's, the Bears cannot officially request those interviews until Monday and after. Also, any interview the Bears conduct with a candidate employed by another NFL team, aka Ben Johnson, must be conducted virtually until round 2 of the playoffs in January 19th. So there could be no in-person interview with Ben Johnson or Joe Brady or the like before January 19th. The initial contact must be done via a Zoom call. So makes sense. And this is because the NFL wants to protect these coaches from being too deep into interviews while their teams are still on a playoff run. You don't want to have your coordinator in a 9-10 hour interview in another city when you're trying to prepare for a playoff game that week. That's why that rule is in place. You're watching Bears Yard, your home of opinionated Chicago Bears talk Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. So if you don't want to miss an episode, hit that subscribe button. For coaches not in the playoffs, the Bears can begin virtual interviews with coaching candidates whose teams did not make the playoffs starting 3 days after their last regular season game. So basically Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on when the team played. For coaches with a round 1 playoff bye, the Bears can begin virtual interviews with coaches whose teams earned a first round bye, the Chiefs in the AFC or the Lions and Vikings in the NFC on Wednesday. They must conclude those interviews before the end of round 1 of the playoffs. Jonathan Flores and Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn are all candidates to receive a round 1 bye. So, there's a very important game coming up this Sunday that has nothing to do with the Bears. Actually, no, it has to do with the Bears, but it's not the Bears game. It is the Lions versus the Vikings. They are playing on Sunday night, and the winner of that game receives a first round bye. So, if the Detroit Lions beat the Minnesota Vikings this Sunday night, the Lions will win the NFC North, and they will get a first round bye in the playoffs, which means that the Bears can interview Ben Johnson next week. But if the Lions lose that game to the Vikings, then that interview will have to be put on hold until after round 1 because the Lions will then be in a playoff week. And the same goes to the Bears want to interview Brian Flores, right? If the Vikings win that game, then the Bears can interview Flores next week. But if the Vikings lose that game Sunday night to the Lions, then the Bears can't interview Flores until after the 19th. For coaches whose teams are playing in round 1, the Bears can interview coaches who play in round 1 virtually 3 days after their first playoff game. They must finish those interviews by the end of round 2 on January 19th. Kingsbury Commanders will play in round 1, as will offensive coordinator Joe Brady Bills, either offensive coordinator Liam Cohen's Buccaneers or offensive coordinator Zach Robinson's Falcons will too. Also, starting January 20th, the Bears can conduct in-person interviews with any coaching candidate whose NFL season has ended. For those coaches that make it to the Super Bowl, in the bye week before the Super Bowl, the Bears can conduct in-person interviews with candidates whose teams are set to play in the game. The Bears must have previously interviewed that coach virtually. Teams are prohibited from contacting those coaches during Super Bowl week, though, and cannot agree to a contract until after the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? If you really think that coaches are going to wait to, or these teams are going to wait to have a backdoor contract agreed upon, NFL, I got some water by the river I want to sell you. But moving on. To keep it short, virtual and in-person interviews with teams whose seasons are still alive cannot exceed 3 hours a rule the NFL enacted last year. In-person interviews must take place in the coach's home city or a location approved by the coach's current club. Also, NFL teams hiring or interviewing candidates must meet the Rooney Rule, which states the NFL mandates that teams must conduct an in-person interview with 2 external head coaching candidates that are persons of color and or women. Thomas Brown of the Bears, would not count since he's already employed by the Bears. Now, this is something that I've been wrong about multiple times on the channel, and I've told people I thought that the Bears would interview Thomas Brown because he would meet the Rooney Rule, but actually, Thomas Brown, the Bears interviewing him, would not meet the Rooney Rule since he is already employed by the team. So the Bears will have to interview another minority candidate for their head coaching job whose name is not Thomas Brown. And that makes sense because, again, if he's already employed by the Bears, then that doesn't really meet the Rooney Rule if you're opening up a new position within the organization. So those are the rules as to how the Bears can go about conducting head coaching interviews. So if all of us Bears fans want Ben Johnson, we are hoping that the Lions win on Sunday night so we can interview Ben Johnson sooner rather than later. Now, here's my other thing, right? I told you guys at the beginning of the video, the Jets have already interviewed Mike Vrabel and Ron Rivera because Vrabel and Rivera are not currently employed by any NFL team. Mike Vrabel's contract with the Browns ended a couple of days ago, so he's open to interview with anybody right now. But why haven't the Bears interviewed Mike Vrabel yet, if that's the case, or anybody for that matter? Why? What are the Bears waiting for? Well, I got a sneaky suspicious feeling, you all, even though I previously reported on this channel that I feel like Ryan Poles is going to be extended as Bears GM, the only reason why I can understand or logic that will come to me as to why the Bears have not interviewed anybody yet is that there's a small chance that Ryan Poles might actually be terminated. If you're going to terminate Ryan Poles, there is no point of him interviewing anybody for the head coaching opening. So that is the only reason why I can think that the Bears are waiting to interview a Mike Vrabel or Ron Rivera or anybody else not currently employed. Pete Carroll, they can interview Pete Carroll right now if they wanted to. They could have talked to Bill Belichick, but they didn't talk to any of these guys who they could talk to right now. Why? Your season's over with. You're not making it to the playoffs, Chicago, so why? Maybe Ryan Poles is about to be fired on Monday. Maybe. I don't know. But let me know, Bear fans. Did this video give you a better understanding of why the NFL has particular rules in place as it relates to interviewing head coaching candidates? Drop a comment, and if you want more opinionated Bears chatter, hit that video right there.